find it interesting that you want to. No, I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. Do you want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't want to focus on the good work that the CIA is doing, that the intelligence community.
Director, I reclaim my time. Director, I reclaim my time.
The Atlantic just released the full signal chat showing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared the exact timing of warplane launches before the pilots were even in the air. Now Congress is grilling the CIA Director and the Director of National Intelligence about what happened. Rep. Jimmy Gomez just asked the question everyone is thinking. Watch how Ratcliffe reacts.
The main person who was involved in this thread that a lot of people want to talk to is Secretary of Defense Hegseth. And a lot of questions were brought up regarding his drinking habits in his confirmation hearing. To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Director Ratcliffe, same question. Yes or no?
No, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you want to. I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. Do you want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't want to focus on the good work that the CIA is doing, that the intelligence community.
Director, I reclaim my time. Director, I reclaim my time. Here, I have huge respect for the CIA, huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of every American, right? He stood in front of a podium in Europe holding a drink. So of course, we want to know if his performance is compromised. If people were asking if the General Austin was compromised because of a heart issue,
was his performance compromised because of a successful strike?
Back. Mr. I bring my
you want to know? You want to talk about accepting responsibility? Do you think you should accept responsibility for a successful strike to make Americans safer? You want to focus on?
I reclaim my time. So here's the thing. This is serious. As somebody, we've been briefed in this committee about using Signal. One of the things they basically said, the most secure phone call, the least secure text messaging. And we know that your people are Russians, Chinese are on your phone.
Gentleman's time's expired.
For the last 2 days, members of the intelligence community have been asking questions about a Signal messaging group and not asking questions from Democrats either in the Senate or the House on China, Russia, Iran, and the real threats that are going on to the United States. And you can say that you care about the good work that agencies are doing like the CIA and that you care about 140 stars on the wall. But no one's asked me about my second day on the job here, where I lit the fuse that led to a foreign government participating with us to capture one of the senior planners of the Abbey bombing that killed 13 Americans. And in the process, we worked with a government that previously hadn't, that hadn't cooperated with us on counterterrorism matters. Or the fact no one has focused on that within an hour of that taking place, I was on the phone with Director Patel, and a few hours later with Attorney General Bondi, working together, the IC and the FBI working together to bring this person home in less than a week. Unprecedented success for the intelligence community and the law enforcement community. Exactly representative of the kind of work that we should be doing and the kind of work that an oversight committee should be asking about. But instead, we're getting questions about whether or not someone has drinking habits. I just wish in an annual threats hearing where the American people want to hear about threats, that's what we would be talking about.
Congressman Gomez's maligning of my reputation and not giving me the opportunity even to respond to his accusations. What occurred in that Signal chat was an update to National Security Cabinet members that was also issued around the same time as updates to our foreign partners and allies in the region. There were no sources, methods, locations, or names of targets that were included in that chat. The decision to conduct this operation had been made long before that conversation took place. I do take my responsibility very seriously and played an integral role in providing the intelligence community's assessments that led to the ultimate decision by the president to conduct an operation, which, by the way, was very successful and continues to be very successful. I was traveling at the time, and I was not playing a very specific role, as these chats reflect, in much of the conversation that took place there. Secretary Hegseth, in my experience, has continued to operate in the way that President Trump's confidence in him inspires, which is in the best interests of the American people and our war fighters and ensuring our national security. I think it's wrong to impugn him, especially at a point where he is not here to defend his own.
Let's talk about what just happened in that exchange, because it told you everything you need to know about how this administration handles accountability. Rep. Jimmy Gomez asked CIA Director John Ratcliffe a simple yes or no question. To your knowledge, was Pete Hegseth drinking before he shared classified military information on an unsecured signal chat? Ratcliffe's answer was not no. His answer was, I find that an offensive line of questioning. That is not a denial. That is a deflection. A man with nothing to hide says no immediately. Instead, Ratcliffe called the question offensive, pivoted to CIA accomplishments, and talked for Gomez for the entire exchange. Gomez, to his credit, kept reclaiming his time and pushing back. Why does the drinking question matter? Because Hegseth was documented standing at a podium in Europe holding a drink. That is a fact. And what he shared on that signal chat were the exact timings of U.S. warplane launches and when bombs were dropped before the pilots flying those missions were even in the air. If that information had reached the wrong hands in those minutes, American service members could have been killed. That is not a partisan talking point. That is the operational reality of what was shared. Gomez also made a direct comparison that Ratcliffe had no answer for. When Lloyd Austin was hospitalized, Republicans demanded to know if his medical condition compromised his performance. That was considered a legitimate question of fitness for duty. Asking whether the Secretary of Defense was drinking before sharing sensitive military timing information is the exact same category of question. If Austin's health was relevant, Hegseth's drinking habits are relevant. Ratcliffe had nothing, so he called it offensive and kept talking. Then came the defense of the signal chat itself. Ratcliffe said the chat contained no sources, no methods, no locations, no names of targets. But that is not what The Atlantic published. The Atlantic published specific attack timings, when more planes would launch, when bombs would drop. That is operational information. That is the kind of information that gets people killed if it reaches the wrong hands. And it was sent on an unclassified signal chat that included a journalist. Ratcliffe also said it was wrong to impugn Hegseth when he wasn't there to defend his honor. But Hegseth chose not to be there. He was traveling. He has refused to answer questions. He stood at a podium in Europe with a drink in hand and called it a smear when reporters asked about it. If he wants to defend his honor, he can show up and do it himself. What we just watched was the CIA director, under oath, refusing to answer whether the Secretary of Defense was impaired when he shared military strike timings on an unsecured chat, not because he doesn't know, but because the answer is too dangerous to say out loud.